In a quaint home in Brightburn, Kansas, Kyle and Tori Breyer are in bed, about to make love. Kyle hopes they'll finally conceive a baby, but Tori is tired of hoping and just wants to enjoy the moment. Suddenly, Tori feels a tremor and stands to check, but it stops, and she returns to bed. However, a crash shakes their home, and outside their window, they notice a bright red light in the distance. After this strange incident, Kyle and Tori are blessed with a baby boy named Brandon. 10 years later, Tori checks on Brandon to get him ready for school, only to find his room empty. Hide and seek is a game they often play, so she whistles, expecting to hear him. Brandon whistles back, teasing her from his hiding spot. His voice leads her to the barn where she checks through the hay bales but doesn't find him. He then jumps out at her, and she laughs, relieved by the prank. She hugs him, telling him he'll always be her baby boy. Kyle arrives outside and warns Brandon about the barn rules, expressing concern for his safety. At school, Brandon is called on to answer a question about bees and wasps. He answers confidently, saying that bees are pollinators and wasps are predators. He even mentions the Polistes sulcifer, a species that lost the ability to nest and forces other species to raise their young. One of his classmates, Royce, mocks him for rambling, and the whole class laughs except for Caitlin. She comforts him, saying that smart guys like him rule the world, and they exchange a smile. That night, Tori checks on Brandon before settling down to paint. A red light pulses from the barn, and soon after, Brandon begins to seize in his room. Tori hears the commotion, but seeing that his seizures have stopped, continues painting. Brandon wakes up and walks out of his window, causing Tori to hear a loud thud. Concerned, she checks outside but finds nothing wrong. As she turns to go back inside, she feels someone running behind her. She rushes through the drying laundry, catching a glimpse of Brandon's back before he disappears. Tori, now frantic, heads to the barn, where she finds Brandon muttering strange words and aggressively trying to open a chained trapdoor. She calls out to him, but he doesn't respond. When she touches him, he suddenly looks at her, jumps in shock, and appears confused. Tori comforts him, saying he's just sleepwalking, though Brandon mentions hearing voices. Not wanting to worry him, she dismisses this and leads him back to bed. When Kyle checks on them, Tori lies, saying Brandon simply sleepwalked downstairs. The next day, Kyle opens up to Brandon, revealing that he struggled when they first adopted him. Later, when Tori leaves Kyle alone with Brandon, he struggles to connect with him until he uses candy to calm him down, solidifying his role as a father. The two bond over the candy until Kyle leaves Brandon to mow the lawn. The lawnmower doesn't start immediately, and Brandon's frustration builds until, in a fit of rage, he throws the machine across the yard. In shock, Brandon raises his hands at his newfound strength. When he inspects the lawnmower, he finds it upside down with the blades spinning dangerously. Voices whisper to him, and he is hypnotized into slamming his hand onto the blades. The machine breaks, but his hand comes out unharmed. On Brandon's 12th birthday, the family celebrates at a diner with Tori's sister, Marilee, and her husband, Noah. Marilee, who is also Brandon's school counselor, praises him as a genius. As a reward, Noah gives Brandon a hunting rifle. Kyle quickly confiscates the gun, explaining that Brandon is too young for it. When Brandon protests, slamming his fist on the table, the arcade screens flicker, and the entire restaurant watches in tension. Kyle, irritated by Brandon's behavior, ends the celebration early. When Brandon refuses to leave, Kyle grabs him, causing the arcade screens to flicker again. Tori intervenes, convincing Brandon to listen to Kyle. Meanwhile, a waitress named Erica watches them warily. Back home, Kyle and Tori discuss the changes they've noticed in Brandon. Tori reminds Kyle that they were just as rebellious as teenagers and vows to be a better parent to Brandon. Kyle agrees, suggesting they go camping in Drivewood the next day to relax. While preparing, Tori reminds Brandon to grab his jacket, but he ignores her. As Kyle checks on him, he finds Brandon strangely eating his fork. He pulls it away, and Brandon gasps, confused by the bent fork in his hand. Later, while Tori gets Brandon's jacket, she finds disturbing pictures under his bed. At first, she and Kyle are amused by Brandon's juvenile idea of entertainment, but their amusement fades as they find pictures of human organs. Disturbed, they decide to have a conversation with him later. While out hunting, Kyle talks to Brandon about relationships, explaining that intercourse is not just physical, but about love. He subtly informs him about self-love, but Brandon misinterprets it, leading to an awkward end to the conversation. Later that night, Caitlin is jolted awake by music coming from her laptop. She closes it, but the music continues. Terrified, she quickly shuts the laptop again, but it continues to play. Feeling a presence, she turns to the window, sees something, and immediately calls her mom, Erica. Erica bursts through the door, but Caitlin insists someone is outside. Erica doesn't see anyone but tries to calm her down, though Caitlin insists it was Brandon Breyer at her window. Meanwhile, Tori searches frantically for Brandon, who eventually reappears, claiming he just went to the bathroom. At school, Tori consults Marilee about Brandon's attitude during the diner incident, still concerned. Marilee reassures her that it's just puberty, and Tori is relieved. She finds Brandon drawing strange symbols, but he quickly hides them from her. That night, as Kyle hears chickens in the barn making noise, he arms himself, thinking it's a wolf. However, he finds Brandon instead, standing eerily still, staring at the chickens. Kyle reprimands him and takes him home, unsettled. The next morning, Kyle finds the chickens dead and blames Brandon, telling Tori about what happened. However, Tori doesn't believe him, reasoning that a wolf couldn't have broken the lock. At school, during a trust exercise, Caitlin lets Brandon fall and their classmates laugh. She calls him a pervert, and when Brandon grabs her, he crushes her hand. Afterward, Caitlin's parents, along with the sheriff, meet in the principal's office. Erica demands that Brandon be locked up, but when she learns that the punishment will only be suspension and counseling, she becomes furious. She suggests that Brandon's real mother could be a psycho. Tori defends herself as Brandon's mother, scolding Erica for targeting a child, and apologizes for Caitlin's situation before leaving. On the way out, Brandon stares menacingly at Erica. At home, Tori confesses to Kyle about Brandon sleepwalking the previous night. Kyle worries about how drawn Brandon is to the trapdoor, fearing that he's not human and might cause more harm. As Tori searches for answers about Brandon's origins, she sees a red light from the barn. She finds Brandon floating above it. Panicking, she tries to catch him, but he falls and cuts himself on the alien ship. Concerned, Tori comforts him, and he asks what he is. Tori decides to tell him the truth, confessing their struggles to have a baby before he was brought into the alien ship. Brandon, upset by the lies, runs outside, finally deciphering the whispers as "take the world" before screaming with laser red eyes. Brandon later visits Caitlin's room, giving her flowers as an apology. He tells her she shouldn't be afraid, as she's one of the only people who knows how special he is. When she mentions that her mother forbids her from talking to him, he promises to take care of it. Meanwhile, at the diner, Erica notices strange symbols drawn on the windows. Thinking it's a prank, she calls for Gary, but the lights flicker and break, sending a shard into her eye. Blood sprays as she removes it, but as she searches for the culprit, she is unable to see clearly due to the blood. Terrified, she grabs a baseball bat, swinging it around to defend herself before locking herself in the freezer. Hot laser beams split the metal door, and Erica sees a boy with glowing red eyes, wearing a cape and mask, before he kills her. Meanwhile, Tori and Kyle anxiously wait for Brandon at breakfast, concerned about the events from the previous night. When Brandon arrives, they're relieved to find him calm and finally accepting his situation. The sheriff investigates Erica's disappearance at the diner when he notices something on the windows. He blows over the glass and discovers a mysterious symbol. During Brandon's counseling session, Marilee probes him about his adoption. She finds that Brandon has started differentiating himself as a superior being after learning about his origins. At Brandon's lack of remorse for Caitlin, she urges him to open up. Despite being family, she's serious about her work and will be providing a report to the sheriff. This makes Brandon shake with anger. In a bar, Kyle and his friends talk about Erica's death. EJ implies that Brandon could be responsible, especially after the incident with Caitlin, but he apologizes when rebuked. Kyle worries that Brandon is becoming a monster, but Noah assures him that all children go through phases and are monsters before leaving home. Marilee is home alone when Brandon visits. He subtly threatens her, warning her not to send the sheriff a report, but Marilee stands her ground and firmly asks him to leave. Although his smile is menacing, he complies. After shutting the door, Marilee texts Noah before bed, unaware that Brandon, wearing a red mask, is lurking in the darkness behind her. As she sleeps, Brandon sneaks inside her room but hears Noah coming home. Noah brushes his teeth in the bathroom and overlooks Brandon behind him. He feels something move toward his closet, turns on the light, and jumps when he sees Brandon in his mask. Noah scolds him and drags him outside to his truck. Before they get in, Brandon warns Noah not to tell his parents, but Noah isn't intimidated. The light flickers as Noah heads to the driver's seat. When he doesn't see Brandon inside the truck, he goes to force him in. Just as Brandon puts on his mask, Noah grabs him, and Brandon shoots him down with laser vision. Brandon disappears into the darkness, leaving Noah terrified. He limps inside his car and drives away. After gaining distance, Brandon strikes his truck, making Noah lose control. The car breaks down, and Noah desperately tries to start it. When he hits the headlights, he sees Brandon standing in front of his car. When the lights turn off and on again, Noah sees Brandon flying, then disappearing. Noah anxiously looks around before Brandon lifts the truck into the air and releases it. The truck crashes headfirst into the ground, causing Noah to break his jaw on the steering wheel. Noah passes out as Brandon uses his blood to write a symbol on the road. Since Brandon hasn't come home, Kyle sits anxiously while Tori panic calls merrily. Brandon finally comes in, hiding his shirt in his hands. Tori hugs him, asking what happened, and he lies, pretending that he was upset about a soccer game that led to bullying. Tori and Kyle know Brandon is lying when he leaves for his room. They're at a loss since they can't easily provide their alien son with a specialist. Kyle blames themselves for Brandon, feeling they raised him when he wasn't meant to be human. That night, Kyle dreams of the past. His mind guides him back to the woods, where they first found Brandon. Tori carries a bleeding baby, and when she offers it to him, he sees the monster that Brandon has become in his mind. He jolts awake as Merrily calls them. The couple goes to the hospital to comfort Merrily, who is distressed about Noah's crash. She expresses concern for Brandon, and the couple is shocked to learn that he visited her before the crash. They speak to Brandon the next morning and are disturbed by his indifference to Noah's death. Tori gently asks Brandon if he knew anything about Noah's death, but he lies to them. Kyle blows up at Brandon, accusing him of being a monster who killed his friend. Brandon doesn't take it well and pushes Kyle, crashing him into a cabinet. Tori breaks up the fight and tells Brandon to go to his room. Kyle suspects Brandon is hiding his shirt for a reason. While Brandon showers, Kyle searches his room and finds the shirt stained with blood. He immediately hides the shirt, pretending to apologize for his actions. When Kyle shows Tori evidence of Brandon's crime, she turns a blind eye. Kyle gets frustrated with her, leading him to say that Brandon isn't their son. She gets upset by his words and leaves. Meanwhile, the sheriff, while investigating Noah's accident, discovers the same symbol that he found in Erica's case. Kyle looks at Brandon's baby trinkets and remembers his love for their son. He turns in for bed and tells Tori that he's taking Brandon camping to fix their relationship and show him his love. Tori is relieved and allows herself to be embraced by Kyle's arm. Kyle and Brandon set off the next morning. Their journey is silent and strained. The sheriff visits Tori asking about Brandon. He shows her a photograph of the symbol at Noah's crash and describes it as a combination of two-letter B's insinuating Brandon Breyer. Tori plays innocent, but the sheriff knows better. When she tells him to leave, the sheriff warns her that he'll return. She rushes to Brandon's room and finds his notebook full of the same symbols. She flips through it, horrified to see depictions of Erica and Noah's deaths. As Kyle and Brandon walk through the woods, Kyle raises his gun at Brandon while he's distracted. He sheds a tear at what he's about to do before shooting Brandon in the head. Brandon stands up, unaffected, and turns to Kyle with a shocked expression. Kyle is terrified and reloads his gun, but Brandon disappears. He runs away, but Brandon quickly catches up and tackles him. As Kyle pleads for his life, Brandon hesitates before shooting lasers through his head, killing him. Tori desperately calls Kyle but hears Brandon on the phone instead. She denies Kyle's death despite Brandon directly telling her, then asks him where he is. Brandon tells her he's home before crushing Kyle's phone. Tori screams as Brandon starts destroying their home. She calls 911, but he interrupts her call. The sheriff and his deputy arrive at the scene to find the Breyer home in shambles. When Tori meets them, Brandon kills the sheriff. The remaining deputy orders Tori to hide. The deputy requests backup, but there's interference. As the policewoman reports in, Brandon shows up behind her. He slams her against the house before her body lands, bleeding out, in front of Tori's hiding place under the bed. When Brandon checks, he doesn't find Tori, as she's already dangling outside the window. Tori falls, hurting her hand. This jogs her memory of Brandon's injury from before. Knowing what to do, she runs to the barn with Brandon on her tail. She goes to the trapdoor and checks the ship, only for it to start glowing. The light uncovers Erica's dissected body behind her, and Tori cries after recognizing her. Setting her decision, she rips a metal shard from the ship and hides it in her back pocket. Tori calls for Brandon, luring him with whistles as if playing their game. Brandon finds her, and Tori slowly approaches him, trying to make him recognize the good inside himself. When Brandon melts into her embrace, she raises her arm, intending to kill her son with the metal shard. But Brandon stops her. He feels the pain of Tori's betrayal and shouts in rage. He takes Tori in his arms and crashes through the barn's roof. Tori's head comes up bloody from the crash, and as they fly higher and higher, she touches her son's face before he lets go, letting her fall to her death. Brandon sees a plane in the distance and uses it to cover up the deaths in the Breyer home. He innocently eats a cookie as a news crew reports about the mysterious plane crash, leaving Brandon as the only survivor. So, what did you think of the movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.